for tuning in. I still have to work on lighting a bit more in here. But as I get time, I'll get it set up a little better. As you can see in the window behind me, we've had quite a bit of rain, and which is a blessing, because on the homestead here, we are beginning to plant, and I've been out cutting grass, which I've got quite a bit to cut, and cutting I'm cutting a dead tree that had fallen down, and I had picked up an electric battery operated chainsaw for a while, but it has the power to do the job, but it doesn't last real long. And recently I changed the carburetor in my gas powered chainsaw, which had sat around for quite a while, and I'm not a mechanic, and I first changed the carburetor on my Honda self-propelled mower, but it ran for a little bit, but I couldn't get it running today. The chainsaw, fortunately, I got running, which is a blessing. And I was able to get out there and cut a little more wood with that. I didn't do a lot because I was busy working on videos yesterday, but I got some of it done. It felt really good to get that running again, and a little sense of accomplishment. And but I wanted to talk a little bit about this passage in Scripture where Messiah told us not to be called Rabbi. And there's a message here. There's an understanding to be had when we're reading Scripture, to understand what's being told to us, not just looking at the letter. There's a meaning to the word rabbi, which means master in the Hebrew. This is a Hebrew word. And when we read this whole thing, it puts everything into context for us. You know, there's people, I'll say people, men and women, that argue against this and call themselves rabbi. This is diametrically opposed to what Messiah taught us. And what it's about taking the headship over other people. We have that title. I've heard people say, "Oh, he's a humble man." Okay, he may put on a form of humility, but a servant will not take on this title. This is not a servant's role. And this is what we have to understand here. Messiah is telling us in Matthew 23:8, "But you are not to be called rabbi, for one is your teacher, and you are all brothers." That verse alone sums it all up. I've heard excuses from rabbis why they call themselves rabbi. None of them are legitimate. And the message here in Scripture, what Messiah is telling us, is not to take on these roles, these titles or these roles. You can be in that role, you know, where you're elevated over other people. It's the same thing, even if you don't call yourself rabbi. Some of those people call themselves pastors. It's still contrary to Scripture, contrary to sound doctrine, contrary to what Messiah taught. And there's other passages back in Torah that show this. Matthew 23:12. "Whoever exalts himself shall be humbled, and whoever humbles himself shall be exalted." So when you take on the title rabbi, or even if you don't take that title, if you're elevated above the laity, even if you're a pastor, if you're elevated above the laity, you're going to be humbled by the Father, by Messiah. I'm going to jump back a little bit. Verse 10, "Nor are you to be called teachers, for one is your teacher, the Messiah. But the greatest among you shall be your servant." down to verse 13. But woe to you, Torah scholars and Pharisees, hypocrites! For you shut people out of the kingdom of heaven, for you do not enter yourself, nor do you let those enter who are trying to get in. That's a sharp exhortation. Let's receive that. And the people who call themselves rabbi, obviously their eyes are blinded. And they take positions where they've elevated themselves over other people. Messiah is telling us not to do this. That when we go back to verse 8 again, he says, only one is your teacher, and you are all brothers. We're all brothers, equal, under Messiah. This is the message here. I actually talked to one rabbi on social media. He was a pretty good guy. And I shared the understanding of Scripture. He stopped calling himself rabbi and he repented. He was a knowledgeable man. And he knew Hebrew far better than I do. He knew Hebrew very well. He was well studied in it. And he knew, because he knew what rabbi really means. You can make excuses for what you do. They're not always valid reasons. Excuses are never valid reasons. They're simply that, excuses. So we have to be careful. Careful? Careful. Well, a little more trouble since I don't have as many teeth. Tongue's got no front teeth to rest against anymore. I try to do my best though. I try to talk as though I'm not missing any teeth. I've just learned to reposition my tongue, you know. Hopefully someday when Messiah returns, I'll get a new body and have a full set of teeth again, right? This chapter in Matthew 23 gets into more. And it even calls these people blind guides who call themselves rabbi and elevate themselves. And I've seen a lot of that myself. That when I've heard their excuses, sometimes, you know, a lot of times when they're teaching and stuff, it's so far away from the truth in Scripture that they many times don't even correlate Scripture because they're going with their own understanding. But I'm convinced that the people that have the mind of the Spirit are humble people, and they are not people who have elevated themselves. Scripture tells us to condescend to men of low estate. I've seen these men, you know, that are up there that have titles, you know, and who are on top of humanity. They are not humble people. Many times they're narcissists because they love the position. I'm trying to think of one guy in Scripture, Diotrephes, I think his name is, if I'm pronouncing it correct. And he loved the preeminence. And that's what these people that elevate themselves have. I actually had one pastor point blank say, I can throw anybody out I want. And I thought, man, you better study your Scriptures better and learn them better than what you think you do. He thought he knew so much. You know, and I'd heard so much out of him, almost made me vomit. And it's really sickening when we get people that elevate themselves and they think they're the ones who are right. That's not a humble person. When Scripture says, condescend to men in low estate, it's not them. And I will separate myself from those kind of people because they made themselves teachers, but they're not obeying Messiah. This is the key. Watch for the fruit. Messiah said, you will know them by their fruit. 1 Corinthians 13, right? Let's follow that. When you see these people that don't have the fruit, they've elevated themselves. And the rabbinical and pastoral positions in today's synagogues and churches are not scriptural. They're not what Messiah taught. And You know, we can go through Scripture and correlate many passages with this, but this chapter should be enough to convince everybody that these people are elevated, are disobeying Messiah. It's as simple as that. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. If you're not new to the channel and you've not subscribed, subscribe anyway. Would love to have you. And I'm just a servant, just like you are. And I love talking to people and sharing ideas. I've been at work sometimes with other believers. We do that. You know, it's a great time. We still work. We don't stop. You know, we have to be working and earning our keep. But I've run into, you know, other people that are just a great blessing that can talk and communicate. So have a great day wherever you are. Shalom.